Welcome to the People's Guild.
Each week we explore the Splinterlands universe with guests from all across the mythical land of Praetoria.
Join us on our journey as we discuss the evolution of the game, the strategy, the lore, and the exciting path that lies ahead.
To support the People's Guild, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and also check us out on PeakD, YouTube, and Twitter.
Send your questions, suggestions, and epic battles in our comments through Twitter or email at thepeoplesguildspl@gmail.com. We'll feature the best in our episodes and maybe airdrop you some prizes.
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the People's Guild. Another week, another episode. We are coming at you guys with a bit of a double header this week, making up for some lost time over the long holiday. This week, we are welcoming into the show a man who is responsible for one of the great third-party tools in the ecosystem. I can't imagine my Splinterlands experience without this toolbar that comes from NFO Guides. It is the Baron's Toolbox bar, of course. If you haven't experienced Splinterlands with this tool, you are seriously missing out. So without further ado, we welcome Axlertwinblade. Welcome to the show, Axler. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on. And definitely thanks for the nice comments here about the Baron's Toolbox dual bar.
Yeah, it's been great. Should we refer to you as Axler, or do you go by Mr. Twinblade, or how do you like to
usually Axler is my in-game name. That's a childhood name that stuck with me forever. But I've also had the NFO Guides or Info Guides name kind of in the winds probably about 30 years now.
Oh, wow. Wait, so Axler is a childhood name, so I got to hear the story. What's the story behind that?
So this goes way back to when I probably about 8 or 9 years old, and it goes back to the wonderful days of Dungeons and Dragons in the neighborhood, playing with friends, rolling a character, and I couldn't think of a name for a character, and it was actually my friend who gave me the name. And for years, it was just Axler, a first short name. And it just has ever since then stuck with me. And I can't remember when I was playing some games and it needed a surname. So then I just threw the Twinblade on the end of it. So, but yeah, that name has been around since really old school, playing D&D on paper.
So Twinblade, were you always kind of like a two-handed weapon type of guy, or is that just something you kind of just grabbed out of nowhere?
I grabbed it out of nowhere, but I was actually I purposely chose Twinblade because I didn't use two blades. I liked my characters always had a huge double-bladed battle axe is what I preferred. And so I chose Twinblade really just to kind of purposely make it misleading.
Cool. Well, goal achieved. I was definitely picturing a guy wielding two swords there. Can you tell us, Axler? So you mentioned NFO Guides has been around for a good bit of time at this point. What pursued you down this path? How did NFO Guides start? What was your initial product service offering?
Let's see. So NFO Guides, this goes back to before the internet. I'm not sure if either of you are familiar with the days before the internet where everything was dial-up and BBS bulletin board systems. I don't know if any of that rings a bell for either of you. Back in that day, I guess I'll incriminate myself here. I ran a pirate's bulletin board system, meaning pirated software, and every pirated software had a text file, and it was basically how to use the pirated software without the key. And it was almost always called something.nfo for information. So that is actually where NFO comes from, is way back in this would be probably about 85, 86, 1985, 1986. And these files were informational files for how to play a game without the proper licensing per se. And so they were just really familiar, and so I always got used to those files and used them a lot. So I always knew what the NFO extension stood for. And then going forward, I had picked up the domain name for it once, then I let it go, but it's always stuck with me. And then probably about 10 years ago, I picked up the domain name, and I actually went around and set up like Facebook pages and all that so I could do live streaming. But then my internet wouldn't let me do live streaming. So it's kind of been there, but I haven't really used it until recently.
Well, you're selling yourself short on pitching it as 3 decades. You're creeping closer to 4, man.
Yeah. I'm kind of aging myself.
Well, I think it's safe to say that you're certainly in good company with the pirated software. I think, Hep and I, we're both of the Napster generation. I have very fond memories of, spending 24 hours to download Gin and Juice, the bluegrass version. I'm sure that song, it went really far and wide. And although it was credited to Fish, it was that was a false pretense there. It certainly wasn't Fish, but yeah, I appreciate the insight there. And despite the self-incrimination, very, very cool. Yeah, very cool, humble beginnings, man. I'm sure you did a lot of folks a big service there. So I'm curious, I was present at the live stream yesterday, and credit to you for hosting an entertaining show. You had the esteemed company of one Sir Yabba Matt on your live stream with Splinterlands TV. And kind of the weeks building up to yesterday, I don't remember if it was private conversation between you and I, or you had mentioned it on your live stream, but you were kind of asking yourself, why doesn't Baron's Toolbox get the vision or the publicity that some of the other tools in the marketplace do? Well, I think it's safe to say, after the conversation yesterday and you kind of putting Baron's Toolbox on full display for Yabba and the 200 plus people that were in the stream, that's going to change. So I was certainly excited for you. I could see the excitement on your face, and I think the whole audience that was in attendance and kind of familiar with what you offer and your toolbar, use your toolbar. Everybody's rooting for you, man. So what was that like? Do you feel like, did you see a massive spike in downloads on the heels of that? And
I actually haven't looked at the numbers for the download. I was definitely excited to host Yabba Matt just because he's the co-founder. But for me, it was a snowball of a bunch of things. And yes, to confirm, you and I did talk about that, I think, through Discord. And I've always wondered why all these tools that are based around tokens, they have their nice little logos right there on the market screen in Splinterlands. And I've been trying for years for a tool like mine that's absolutely free. I just want to get it in front of like new spellbook owners. I would like an announcement or an alert that they would see that just lets them know it's out there. It's free. It's out there. And I get a lot of good feedback. And even when I talk with Yabba Matt, and I've mentioned it to Agrode, they both seem on board with it, but it never goes anywhere. Now, I'm not really disappointed about that. I've always wondered why there's not something in Splinterlands for tools that aren't about the tokenomics. And I think a new one that's out is kind of Splinter Coach. That it's out and it's pretty nice, but I haven't used it myself. And so when I got a chance to host the stream and have Yabba Matt on, I was definitely excited. But then it turns out, because of my internet, I've been streaming from my church until recently because my internet was so poor. So I couldn't do a lot of collaboration videos, such as, even talking with you guys from my house. I couldn't do that before. And so I haven't done any collaboration videos until the very first one was yesterday with Yaba Matt. So that caught me off guard just a little bit. I wasn't sure I was quite prepared. But I didn't want to inundate them either with Baron's Toolbox, but I did want to point out two things that I know the community really likes, and I really wish were like something that they just included in the game. One has always been the guild interface, a better way to see your guild, because I've always been focused on gameplay. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. And then the other one was just the simple ability to set the visual size of the cards on your screen. I've never understood why they don't have some control for that. So those are the two main things that I know a lot of people, would benefit from if they just include that into the game. So I was really happy that I got a chance to show Yaba Matt where it's at today, because I would have to say the last time I know for a fact he saw it had to have been 6-7 months ago, and it's leaps and bounds from where it was then. So that was probably the exciting part for me. And on top of that, knowing that, the crowd yesterday was huge. I couldn't even remotely keep up with chat.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're definitely getting I know a lot of people in my guild were there and asking questions and stuff like that. So unfortunately, I missed it, unfortunately, but it looked like it was great. So I'm kind of wondering, when we talked a little bit earlier about, our decks. And so did you get into Splinterlands around Untamed, or was it a little bit before that, or what was kind of your entry point to the game?
On the stream, I actually kind of mentioned how I got into Splinterlands, kind of the full story arc. And I will paraphrase it to make it a little bit shorter. So let's see. It was before Untamed sold out. I started in May of 21, about mid-May of 21. But what led up to that was probably in January, February. I have a coworker, and his brother-in-law is on the rich list of Splinterlands, Jesterago. And so I was hearing third person, Jesterago told my coworker about this game we should get involved with. And probably, again, mid-January or February, the first time I heard about it. And I just looked at my coworker and said, yeah, whatever, ignored it. And my coworker did the same thing. And so then about another month passes, and he had talked to his brother-in-law again. And his brother-in-law once again told him about this game, Splinterlands, said, you guys should really get into this. You might like it. And the reason he kept telling us is because at that time, I was learning anything and everything I could about crypto. And so at this point, I had already set up a thrown together crypto mining rig, and I had it running in my pole barn. And so I was, it only had 6 video cards in it. It was just something I was toying with. But when I get into something, I really like to dig under the hood and learn all aspects. So I was into crypto, and I had also invested into the hype of Dogecoin. And so the second time I heard about the game Splinterlands was, after February, you got March. So probably in March, I heard about it the second time. And once again, me and my coworker, we just kind of said, you know what? Nah, forget about it. That can't be real. So we ignored it a second time. And then about a month later, it happened again. And at this point, I lost like $300 in Doge because I put in $500 at the peak, and I was riding it all the way down. I was all set. And so we, once again, in April, we ignored his brother-in-law telling us we should play this game. And then his brother-in-law had told him he had just paid off his student loan debt from earnings he had made in Splinterlands.
Wow.
And again, this was in April of 21. We both ignored it once again. And then finally, the fourth time was in May. His brother-in-law had told him, you really need to get in this game. Land is almost sold out. You don't want to miss land. If you're going to play, you need to start now. And so when my coworker came and told me that, we were sitting there talking in my office, and I was done with Doge at this point. I had lost my tail. So I kind of got burnt at trying to delve into the tokens for the most part. So when he brought it up that fourth time, I finally called the bluff, per se. I said, all right, I've heard enough. I have no clue about this game. I'll put $500 in it if you will. And so at this time, he was also willing to put money into it. So we both decided right then and there, why not? We'll throw our hat in the game. Our goal was to buy 10 plots of land each at $20 a person. And then the other money was just for whatever. I had no idea what Splinterlands game really was. I've never played Magic the Gathering. I've never played a TCG game. And so I just went in for land. That was the whole purpose. I went into it because this guy who paid off his student loan debt with a crypto game said I should. And I happen to kind of know him in a roundabout way. So it's like, oh, all right. And then to sweeten the deal, Jesterago gave each of us 15 packs of Untamed cards to start. Of course, we used his affiliate referral link. So he's probably made well over that money back from me by now. So when we were getting ready to jump into the game, and that day we were talking about it, let's see, two of my other coworkers walked in, other programmers, and they're going, wait, what are you guys getting involved in? So that day, there were 6 of us from my office that joined Splinterlands, all in the same day, all with the same goal of getting land. So we all purchased, well, 5 of us purchased 10 plots of land. One person couldn't afford 10, so he bought 5. But that was my introduction, and how I kind of slid completely sideways into it was because I was into crypto and I had lost my tail on trying to invest in tokens. I was ready for something different, and I was being told repeatedly, oh, try this. So that's how I got in Splinterlands.
Oh man, what a perfect time for you to enter into the game. Pre-Untamed sellout, pre-land sellout. What a difference a couple of months came. Our old buddy Wasco came in August of 2021, and that was obviously height of or the beginning of the highest of highs. And we had Hardpoint on a couple of weeks ago talking about buying a plot of land for $750. So for you to score 10 plots of land for less than half the cost, or less, almost a third of the cost, less than a third of the cost. Yeah, good moves, man. So I'm curious, 6 of you guys coming on. I just did a little bit of a background search, and it looks like Jesterago is still on the rich list for a handful of tokens, SPS, DEC vouchers. So 6 of you guys coming on that day. How many of you guys are still around?
Let's see. So still around and in our guild, we have 4 of us from the original group. Just staff turnover, people taking different jobs. We lost a couple of the original people. They took different jobs and they just kind of sold their assets and moved on. But we then replaced them with some new hires that came in. They kept hearing us talk about the game, and so then they started. And so we still have one of those employees around who has since moved on as well. And so in our guild right now, I believe we have 5 of us from the 4 of us from the original group of 6, and then 1 from later on that joined with us. And let's see, my boss was one of the people that got involved, and he doesn't really play the game anymore, but he holds assets for the long haul. He's got like, I think he bought like 4,000 packs or something like that.
So is that like a prerequisite now? Or is like a initiation thing at work? Anytime someone new comes in, you kind of convince them to play the game, or is it something you guys are just always talking about and people kind of just pick up on it?
It was really more so we were always talking about it. And, of course, when we're talking about it, we'd bring it up on our screen and we'd be pointing out things. And then it would get to the point where they would finally say, okay, I got to try this. What is this thing? And Jesterago for the longest time was really nice he helped us get our whole start by giving us, packs to start with and all this. And so even when we brought the other players in later on, he still gave them like 5 packs of cards just to get started. So he's kind of always been there. He stays pretty quiet. It's not like he's involved in our guild and what we're doing. It's more so we just know him because he's the brother-in-law to my coworker. So
yeah,
I love that with you guys playing during working business hours.
When it first started, yeah, there was a bit of that.
Well, I guess you mentioned that you're able to work from home in the wintertime. I guess that's when we see a spike in gameplay from Axlertwinblade is working from home, quote unquote. Man, I love that you shared that Jesterago, paid you guys with 15 packs of Untamed. He continues to pass on packs. That seems like it, every entrance story starts with somebody in the game kind of paying it forward to the newbies. We've talked about it time and time again. The community here is really what separates Splinterlands from the pack in my mind. And it seems like the further we delve into the history of the game, that's always been true. So what a refreshing memory for you to share, man. I appreciate you doing so. So of those 15 packs, did you pull any noteworthy cards? Is there anything that was particularly sentimental that you're kind of still hanging on to?
Not for me. Nothing really that great and grand. After the original 6 of us started, it was probably about a month or 2 later, one of our writers at our company, they got involved into the game. TCGs weren't their thing. But again, we were talking about it so much. He got into the game. His nickname was Maple Leaf. And we gave him 15 packs of cards. And at this point, I still had no real clue how to play Splinterlands worth beans. But Jesterago gave him 15 packs of cards. And we were talking with Jesterago through Discord. And all of a sudden, probably about 15 minutes later, Jesterago lets us know that, one of your guys just opened a gold foil Byzantine kitty.
Whoa.
And it was our writer that had just started. He opened one of the 15 packs and got a gold foil Byzantine kitty. And so that was the most notable thing any of us got from the original packs that we opened from Jesterago.
Bloody jackpot, man. Jeez. I can imagine, I was listening to, I think it was Rondon that called out yesterday during Rogue stream with Yabamet, and shout out to Rogue for hosting a very, very cool tournament segment of Splinterlands TV. That was a lot of fun. I privately messaged him afterwards and said I would love for him to kind of put his hat in the ring for that just being an ongoing segment of tournament hosting and commentary. He's got a deep knowledge of the game and the cards and the meta, and he's a natural presenter. So shout out to him. But yeah, during that stream, Rondon mentioned that he was buying llamas for I think $8, $9 per BCX, and Yodin was too expensive at $15 per BCX. So that makes me wonder what was a gold foil kitty worth back in the day, and looking at I think it was I want to say it was Hellslash that just tweeted out that he is starting the quest for maxing out his gold foil kitty. And he bought 3 of them for, gosh, I want to say average of $2,600 a piece. Yeah, so just, oh man, the hindsight, you just want to kick yourself for not making moves.
Yep. So when the writer opened that pack, this was probably the let's say the hype train and the tokenomic climb was kicking off. It definitely wasn't at the peak, but when he opened the Byzantine kitty, the cheapest one for sale was $2,500. And so they had already started to climb uphill, and he ended up, after riding the roller coaster for a while, he ended up selling it for $2,300. He was getting out of the game and moving to a different job and all this. So he managed to retain most of the value in it, even though it had spiked a lot higher than that. When he actually did sell it, he got $2,500 from it. And then, and then the pricing on those, at the time, if I remember, llamas were going for about, I think, $25. Crons were going for about 20, and Yodenzaku was going for about 30 or 40. And I said the same exact thing. It's like, there is no way I am going to pay that much for those cards. That is just absurd and ridiculous. And so I didn't. And at the time, it was Clove71 delegated me a Llama Cron combo, and I didn't even realize how much power she had donated to me as far as just winning fights. Had I really understood what it was at the time, I really kicked myself for not buying those things up. Instead, I avoided them because there was no way I was going to pay more than $20 for a single card. This was just absurd in my mind.
Yeah, now that's pretty standard. I remember when I was first getting into the game, and this was, probably just during the Chaos Legion pre-sale. So prices were really high because there's just not that many cards available. A lot of people coming in. And I remember trying to read articles about good combinations of cards and what to get. And some of the articles I was reading were older ones that were like, talking about how Llama Crown was so powerful, but they're like, the prices of it now are so expensive. And that's, probably the article is probably from around that time, because it said that, Crown was like up to like $20. And I'm like, then I go on the market and look, I'm like, it's a lot more than that now. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So in just my pack openings and all that during that time when I was holding on to my Untamed, I did open a couple of regular foil Yodenzakus, and I think when I sold those, I sold each one of those Yodenzakus, I think, for about $60 or $70 at the time when I started selling my Untamed. And the best card I pulled was from a dice pack. And I pulled from the dice pack a gold foil Cthulhu card, Legendary Cthulhu. Mm-hmm. And I did sell that for $1,000.
Wow. That's, I love that card. I mean, I don't have gold foil, but I feel like that was one of the earlier cards that I got of like Untamed legendaries, like actually spent a decent amount of money on it because I really like that card. I'm wondering how you feel now, because we see now some of the legendary cards are can be $20, $15, $20, $25. Prices are down a little bit now, but do you still kind of feel the same way that you don't want to spend that much money on some of those legendary cards, rather rent them, or do you just get them all in packs? Or what's your opinion on that sort of price point now for a legendary card?
Now I prefer, I definitely have no issues if a legendary is like $10 or below. I don't have any issues with it. For summoners, I expect to go up to like $20 a card. And I'm still holding out and not wanting to buy the Coral Lurker because it's at 26. And so I kind of still have those limits in my mind, but just in general, it's hard for me to see buying those at those prices, especially when I know and have seen since I started, how low prices can get. So it's like, why are these holding such a high value still? And so in my mind, I'm still waiting for those cards to drop a little bit further. And I'm hoping to get below $20 before I would start picking up some of those. The main one I'm thinking of here is the Coral Lurker. I don't even have one BCX of it yet.
Yeah, I think Rift Watchers kind of surprised everybody. I remember when Rift Watchers first dropped, I think everybody was anticipating, that price drop cycle that always happens as soon as something new and shiny comes out. The floor is really high, and then over the course of the next several weeks, that price continues to come down. But Rift Watchers has just continued to hold its value, and I'm wondering. Obviously the proposal just passed for 5,000 DEC for a pack of Rift Watchers. I'm wondering if we're ever going to see those prices come down. We haven't really seen packs start to fly off the shelves as a result. We've heard talks of potentially burning Rift Watchers packs, which of course would increase the overall scarcity of said cards. And Rift Watchers, I think, is really. It's such a solid compliment to Chaos Legion, and credit to the team for making such a well-balanced core set plus the supplemental set. So is there, what I know you mentioned that $20, but is there an overall pack volume still available that you're kind of eyeing that is going to trigger in your mind, hey, it's time to make a move?
Not right now. I definitely have paid attention to them talking about burning Rift Watcher packs, moving them over to DEC. I honestly don't think any packs are going to move. Our I'll say real human player count in the game is down right now due to the bear market, and I think we have a lot of dormant players waiting for things to start to turn around. And so because of that, just moving the Rift Watcher packs to DEC, I think obviously we're going to get some people to buy in, but realistically, with land phase 1.5 so imminent, all the whales out there, they need all this DEC to put land to work. And I don't think that they really want to spend the DEC on Rift Watcher packs just as much as they didn't want to spend the SPS. So I think we won't see even if they were to discontinue them, start a new mini set, I don't think there would be a huge buy-in until we kind of get past land phase 1.5. I just think all the people with deep pockets, big wallets, they know it's imminent, and they know they're going to need so much DEC, SPS, everything to get their land started. I think the community right now is really just waiting for land phase 1.5 to hit before they really want to dedicate any dry powder towards packs or towards anything else. So because of that, I mean, this is definitely my position is I think I had opened up I can't remember the exact number. I think I had about 80 Rift Watcher packs that I had bought in the pre-sale of them. And I opened those, but I haven't, other than a pack here or there, I haven't really opened any more or purchased any more Rift Watcher since then. And because my SPS has been so low, all my dry powder has been going to building that up, knowing SPS staking was, imminent. And so I'm not really looking at Rift Watchers like I gotta buy them. But I think part of that is my mind is just telling me, you got time. I probably don't.
Yeah, it'd be tough to see them start to burn those packs. I thought it was tough with Chaos Legion. I'm a big proponent of having the game be more accessible, cards be more accessible, and lower values of cards in order to attract newer players to the game. And I think that would be tough, but I think it'd be crazy because, yeah, like you said, Jangles, the prices have held, and if all of a sudden they start burning packs, I wonder if those prices would continue to hold or if they would go up. But yeah, it's hard to know without the demand being there. So who knows? I was actually lucky in the Riftwatcher packs I got. I got a gold foil Coral Lurker.
Nice.
And I have 2 regular foils as well. So yeah, that was good. I thought I was thinking about selling it at some point in time. I was like, I'll hold on to it. It was up around close to like $300 at one point. And I was like, man, I should just pull the trigger and sell this thing. And in hindsight, I probably should have. I think the cost has come down a lot, but I was pretty lucky with my Riftwatcher packs. I think my average card value is still even today kind of about what I paid for the pack. So hopefully that'll go up someday.
Yeah, I went in when I opened all my packs. I targeted a few cards, went and maxed those out. The main ones I can think of off the top of my head is the Septic Slime in the Fire deck. I maxed that one out right away. I just know there's no healing cards in the Fire deck, and that's a healing card in the Fire deck. So I just looked at that purely from its ability to self-heal and figured I was going to max that card out. And then I maxed out Runemancer Flore was the other one that I targeted. That was the legendary green one that I and those were the only 2 that I really made it a point to go after right off the bat.
No Longtail. I'm a big fan of Longtail.
I like Longtail. I have some of them, but I don't have it maxed out yet.
Yeah, those are some interesting picks, man. I really wanted the Septic Slime to be a bigger component in my Fire deck. I just, and Hep and I were talking about this. I forget when, but I'll play him in reverse speed, and I love the stun. I love the self heal, but otherwise, I just can't. I feel like there's always a better option than the Septic Slime. I love the Forgotten one up front. I love the Venari Heatsmith up front. I'm going to take some flack for that, but it's such a great little card. I think 6 months ago you would have called me crazy, but with weapons training and all the other stuff that's come in, the Soulbound reward cards gives him a little bit of a bump with the additional armor, and yeah, it's a great little card. So I would love to see the Septic Slime get some more value as we move forward. The stun is, man, the new modern Fire Squad is just full of stuns, and stun is such a fun ability and can single-handedly shift a match. And the Runemancer Flore, I think is probably a pretty average pick for somebody's favorite card. I think it's a staple of Back to Basics. It's such a great card with Immortalis. That magic goes first, goes under the armor, pops the armor with a shatter, and then all of a sudden you're dealing big damage via ranged on top of that. But yeah, man, I feel like, and we've talked about this before, but Riftwatchers, I think it's still being slept on, despite the prices. I think there's so many good, Queen of Crows and Corsair Bosun, and there's a handful of really meta rare cards and some common cards that I think they punch way above their weight in terms of their rarity.
I agree totally.
Yeah.
I love the junker, the neutral junker that does the armor repair with reach. I just love a lot of times when I'm playing the blue team with Bakhtira in the front, I'll throw the junker behind it and somebody else to give Bakhtira some armor. Just because it makes it that much more of a tank for people to get through. With my Septic Slime, I always played that. I typically play that not as the tank, but as the last card in my lineup to absorb sneak attack. But I do that when the rule set allows for, it to attack from like with opportunity or the everybody gets sneak. So I'd usually put that in the back line. So that way my, like you were saying, the forgotten one can still be the main tank and those aspects. But yeah, there's so many cards. Somebody told me this once, just like, well, I don't really want to get that card because it's so niche. And I would almost have to say, isn't every single card in Splinterlands kind of a niche card? Every rule set makes it so different that it's just having those options and those abilities to choose from. That's one of the things I just love about the game. And you're right, Rift Watcher set has really added some really nice cards. I definitely want to level up quite a few more of them. I just have been more focused on putting dry powder into SPS and doing that. I had to make that trade-off, buy more cards or start buying up some more token assets. And I thought SPS was going to be the better bet for me because I had just maxed out my Chaos Legion set. And so, and that was including Dr. Blight. And so I maxed out 100% of the Chaos Legion set. But I'm purposely holding back on Rift Watchers, even though I love the cards.
Yeah, it's funny saying they're niche, but yeah, like you said, especially with the 3 rule sets and the additional rules that added, like the combinations, it's like every rule set, every match you play, you're gonna need those quote unquote niche cards. Yeah, and it's especially all the time. I feel like back to basics or get commons only. A lot of the stuff that's limiting. You just gotta. It makes it seem like you gotta have more cards. You gotta have all the cards, and like you're saying, Jangles, I think that's one great thing about Rift Watchers, or maybe probably the best thing about Rift Watchers. It's got some great legendary cards, but the common cards and the rare cards play really, really well in a lot of matches. I think I play Rift Watchers cards like almost every match or every other match, especially with the commons come up. If I might play like the Bramble Pixie behind like the Pellicor Mercenary. I like to do that in like Earthquake and Poison matches too, because they both have the self heal. And yeah, there's just lots of great combinations you can make. Queen of Crows I'm playing almost every match that I'm getting ranged only. Yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff, a lot of fun combinations you can make.
Yeah, it's been really fun and I heard Yaba kind of elaborate on this a little bit further yesterday on Splinterlands TV, and the name of the game is really niche, right? There's no I'm going to play Lamacron and just mow through opponents. There's no I'm going to play Kitty every match and just win everything. Everything is so situational now, and every card does have its place. And I think credit to the team for shifting away from the overpowered cards into a place where every card has its place. And I think it's going to be really, it's going to bode really well for Chaos Legion and Rift Watchers when we move into an Untamed Goes to Wild world. I'm super excited. I know Hep, you're a big death guy, and we've talked ad nauseum about the power and fun of Astral Entity. And I think as soon as the kitties of the world disappear into Wild, Astral Entity is going to have his day. I'm still waiting for Dallin, my buddy, my old grandpa Dallin, to get his day. I feel like the argument of niche can be made across the board. He is one of the few exceptions, unfortunately. I do still stand by my statement. I think he's really powerful in stuff like Divine Shield and Armored Up, but for the most part, I play him any chance I can in Silent Summoners just to give him more wins. But nice. I feel like there's almost always a better option. Yeah. Exactly.
That's like who's
No,
playing Sloan? It's like, oh, it's in Silent Summoners, and you want to play Life. Like, oh, you might as well just throw Sloan out there to throw your next opponent off, being like, is this guy going to play Sloan? Oh, this will be an easy one. I don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
No, I remember one of the things that Yabamat had said is when it came to if there's a card that's too overpowered, they don't want to nerf a card. They don't want to get rid of a card. His perception is he just wants to make new cards that are good counters to the OP cards. And I think that methodology has worked really well, because when you find that set that's just dominating, well, you can almost guarantee the next little set, mini set that comes out, they're going to come up with a new ability or something to give you a nice counterplay for those lineups. And I think that really keeps everything nice and fresh. And yeah, you might be dominating for a little while, several months, but then all of a sudden, something comes out and you're too predictable and somebody just starts stomping on you with the counterplays.
Yeah, I'll jump in and say that's what I really want them to do for Dallin and Cripple. I want them to make it so immunity does not make you immune from Cripple. I think it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't fit well in the way the story should be told. Immunity makes sense against stuff like poison and things like that, maybe affliction, but you're seeing some of the stronger plays now just taking advantage of immunity and being able to heal that, because you can't get affliction, you can't get cripple, you really can't do anything about it. So that's what I think, throwing my hat in the ring there. That's, you want to buff Dallin, you want to make the game a little more balanced. You got to be able to cripple people with immunity. So even like Harklaw, like play Harklaw on like super sneaks or all sneaks with a Harklaw on the back, with some demoralize, and it's like, wow, you can't do anything. You can't poison them, you can't cripple them, you can't do anything. He's just there. So yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want to see. That'll make me think about maybe picking up some Dallin.
I want to know what is going to make you say I have to pick up Dallin, not maybe I'm going to pick up Dallin. What is going to have to shift in order to make Dallin a must have and must play? I'm a big proponent. I think I agree that immunity should not prevent cripple damage, but I also think that it should be taken a step further. I would love to see cripple applied via blast. It makes sense, like shrapnel flying off, and if cripple is being applied to one monster, it should be applied to the adjacent monsters as well.
I think they've tried to limit that, though. They'll limit some of the blast damage things, because before it was like so many random things like snare and poison, and I think they took a lot of that away recently. So I don't know if they'd give that back just to cripple. Maybe, yeah, but yeah, that might help. You don't get a lot. There's not a lot of death cards with blast, though. There's that. Maybe that'll drive some value to is it Kane Haste? Is that the name of the card?
Yeah.
Drive some value to that too. So
there are some neutrals with blast.
Yeah.
And you still have the reflect shield that could prevent the damage from the blast with the cripple.
Yeah.
So that would give a little bit better use case there as well. So I could see it. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to a change like that. Yeah, I'm still behind in getting those summoners high enough level where I can use them. I've got, like level 3 Rift Watcher summoners. So they're sitting there. I just don't use them because I'm in usually Diamond or Champ, and I can't have the rest of my team limited that much.
Yeah, fair. I have been playing my alternate account quite a bit, and that account is kind of firmly planted in silver. I have no plans of moving it anywhere, especially with the SPS staking requirements now. And level 3 epic summoner is the cap, and I feel like I find myself reaching for what is the Rift Watcher's fire summoner, Skargor. In Ray, yeah, I feel like I find myself reaching for her a whole lot more often in silver than I ever do in Diamond and Champ. And I wonder I still haven't leveled up as much as I hype down, as much as I love that card. I have not leveled that one up to silver level yet. Therefore, he just rides the pine on my silver squad for now. We'll see. But let's talk
I probably
about
have some I can delegate. I probably have one I can delegate to because it's not like anybody rents that thing. So
send it over, man. I'll find him a home. Axler, so you're a big D&D guy. You got a lot of history with, kind of traditional tabletop games. Obviously, I think this was your first TCG, as you mentioned, but I'm curious as far as like gameplay mechanics and the potential for future abilities and just changes coming to the meta. What I'm sure you've given some thought to. What would you like to see kind of enter the world of Splinterlands that you've enjoyed from other games from your past?
One of the things that I would like to see a little bit more of would end up being, and this alludes a little bit into one of the ideas I've been formulating in my mind, and really it boils around more aspects of multiplayer. Right now, you are fighting a live, real person, let's say. But at no point do you really feel like you're playing against a person that's actually sitting at the other side of the keyboard. You put your team in, you don't see your opponent. You know, at no time do you actually see your opponents. So one of the things I would like to see is more abilities to see interactions with the other players. Not because, some people want to know just because, that way we know they're not a bot. That's not even in my perspective. It's just like, I might as well just be playing a solo game against bots, because at no point do I feel like I'm really playing another human, even if they are there.
That would be awesome, man. I wonder if that opens the opportunity for you as the Baron's Toolbox creator to kind of add that element once modern moves to a world where the majority of bots are removed from the ecosystem on the modern platform. Is there a way that Baron's Toolbox could identify that the person on the other side has participated in the captcha or whatever? Obviously we've heard time and time again that the captcha element to confirming human play is not going to be present on every battle, but the assumption should be pretty safe to make that the majority of the time you will be playing a human player on the other side. Is there any opportunity for Baron's Toolbox to maybe enable players to engage in conversation or drop some emojis like I just stomped on you, or something like that? Is there room for that?
Yeah, that's part of this, because I'm a one-man person doing all these different, I'll call them all these different weird things with Baron's Toolbox. Part of the reason I introduced the chat feature was to get more engagement with anybody who's playing the game. Right now, kind of gives you an ability to chat with them. The downside I have is because Splinterlands loves to refresh the browser 100 times every time you click on a different menu item. The chat window always has to get refreshed as well. But one of the ideas that I had that I want to, hopefully get to in the future is, if both people are using Baron's Toolbox, being able to recognize that and open a chat window while you two are battling. So you can specifically talk to your opponent, during that battle. So that's one of the reasons I brought the chat in, is to try at some point just to be able to leverage that social aspect in Splinterlands that we currently don't have. There is no global chat. You can't chat with anybody. And so I really feel like even though I really love Splinterlands, I don't want it to come off wrong, but it feels like there's this, when you're playing, it's kind of like a desolate wasteland. You have no clue of who else is playing right now. You have no idea. And so just adding a chat room feature with you and your opponent to be able to chat during your battle, that all of a sudden brings kind of a, you really are able to communicate with the rest of the community. And so that's the type of elements I would love to see start coming into Splinterlands. As Deadpool would say, break the fourth, what is it, the fourth wall? That fourth barrier. So
yeah, that'd be interesting because it's you know, I see what you're saying there. You know, it's hard too because sometimes I kind of like the game because I can just set my teams and then if I'm doing something else, walk away, not have to worry about it too much because it's all just, you know, getting published on the blockchain. And so the information's all there and I can come back and look at the battle and I'm not always like fully engaged with it. So, but there are those times where you're playing where it would be fun to just see, hey, you know, is this person on here too? You know, might going up against somebody I know or kind of know or have heard of, and it would be awesome just to be like, oh, hey, you know, good game or good match or why'd you play that card there? You know, anything like that. It would be. I think that would be great.
It would be a lot of fun if that sort of stuff. You know, I think brawls and tournaments, the way that they function is a little bit different. But it'd be really cool if, you know, once I enter my team, I can drop some messages in for the opponent to see at a later date, or when I refresh the battle, I go back to that battle link. If I could see like some sort of stored data, you know, reflecting the conversation that took place. You know, I feel like that might be a little bit more of a massive undertaking without having any knowledge of software development, but it would be fun to have that stuff kind of housed within. You know, it paints the whole story of the battle, whereas now it's purely battle. But if there was battle plus story plus narrative of, oh man, we've been playing, you know, back and forth and whatever. Something else that would be really cool is the historical component. You know, if I face off with you, Axler, I would love to see like, this is my all-time record versus Axler. I'm sure that data lives somewhere, but I would love to see that sort of stuff be brought in closer to the game and allow it to be, you know, much more accessible for players to access, and, you know, therefore deepening the narrative between, you know, like you said earlier, it's a really small community of human players. So most of the time you're coming across players that, you know, their name, you know, you've faced off with a handful of times at least. And that probably extends into tournaments, into brawls also. So you kind of know, you know, what are the tendencies of this player, and, you know, I have a historically awful record against this person. And that one time that you pull off the victory, you know, I get occasional messages from Heptor and beaten up on, I think it's Hell Slash, isn't it?
What was the last one I sent you? I think the last one I sent you was probably Biz. It was probably one of Biz's accounts. I don't think it was Hell Slash. I think I have beaten Hell Slash before, but very rare. I feel like Hell Slash is one of those people that, you know, can go on like one of those like 80, 90 win runs and just, you know, only has to play for like 2 days a season and can get there, you know, the rating so high. It's I don't see him too much.
Well, even more of a reason that we should have this historical data in there to build that story, to deepen that narrative between the community. You know, I think given the tools that we have, the community is already pretty tight knit, right? But if we could expand on that and deepen the story, deepen the relationship between players, you know, it's so cool. We've got players from all across the world, and you know, Splinterlands is that common thread between all of us, and you know, we come together for stuff like town halls, and you know, so we saw a really big turnout for the Splinterlands TV stuff yesterday, and I expect that to continue throughout the week with Yaba making an appearance. But as far as the historical stuff, Axler, is there any room for that sort of detail to be included into battles?
So right now they definitely don't store any of that kind of data. And I would say there's definitely room for it. I am also a huge statistics fan. I love the idea of keeping track of, you know, I have a 30% win rate against, Hepthorn. I have a 90% rate against my buddy at work. Or, so I love the idea of having stats on your kind of like a report card. Really old school reference here. The original Diablo 1, when you would go in player versus player and you'd kill another player, you would get a trophy, and it was, I believe, their ear. You would get, like, you could collect their ear as kind of like an achievement or a trophy, and it just said that you had beaten that person. And so with that, I love the idea of statistics, but we have a huge problem even wanting to do that with Splinterlands, and it's called the bot problem. And the bot problem, regardless of them doing the fights, are you looking at your statistics, or are you really looking at what the bot statistics did for you? Because let's take, for example, Splinter Coach. You can go to their website and you can see the statistics of the best summoner you've used the past week. But if you bought that account, that's not you. Those statistics are all wrong. They're all skewed towards, yeah, the bot did great. So I love the idea of statistics. I do think we need kind of this home inside of modern anti-bot / human only modern area before you can really start collecting meaningful statistics. Otherwise, it's really hard for me to say I would even trust what I would be seeing as far as statistics go, because, I would know mine are accurate to what I've been doing, but I wouldn't know, anybody else's, oh, theirs looks that way because they've been using Xbot, and that's just been dominating. So that's my perspective. I would love to see more statistics. I think there's going to be a problem until we have that human only area where you can only collect the statistics on what you realistically believe to be the real person playing that account.
I haven't heard any talk about it, but you bring up a great point there, Axler. I would love to see, when we enter into this new era of the modern format, if everybody received a hard reset on all historical data, and we can see, like pre-bot, post-bot ban in modern, and how those statistics shake out on a moving forward basis. But I think as long as the community, as long as the development team continues to put these items in place that encourage human behavior, that encourage the relationships, that encourage the interaction of the game as a human versus enabling my bot to manage my account for me, I think that people will respond in kind and embrace that sort of stuff. So, I love the idea of statistics. I know Weirdbeard's talked about it in the past, especially with respect to tournaments and brawls. But if we could, provide some sort of entrance for that sort of stuff to enter into ranked and allow for that personal engagement, with some historical statistical backing, I think the embrace would be there.
I would agree with that. I just think if you were to try to kick something off now, the statistics would just be muddy. And so I think once we have that human only area, if they were to provide some sort of statistic, I do think you would get more people that would take pride in those records, and want to achieve more or along those sort of lines. And another aspect would be, along with statistics, I'm a huge fan of achievements. I don't understand why Splinterlands doesn't have achievements. And, I don't even necessarily mean that we would have to have free rewards for every achievement we get, but more so just kind of, again, it's a type of statistic of like, you've won X amount of fights, or you've crushed Korra this many times, but as an achievement or an achievement type badge. So not just a statistic, but more of there's so many different levels of achievements that they could put in. I would like to see achievements to kind of go with the statistics.
Yeah,
I
'cause
feel
you
like
could make them
that's
titles, right? They could be just different titles you could get and use. I mean, you look at playing like I don't know if you play Golem Overlord at all, but they have things where if you do different things, it's like, well, now this is a title you can just add onto your name, and it seems pretty straightforward.
and purely cosmetic, right? There's no monetary value attached to it. Well, I think that's got to be in the conversation for battle pass related stuff. It feels like a natural opportunity for those sort of things to enter the fold and offer more. A bot couldn't care less about a purely cosmetic title, but us as human players, that's something you could really hang your hat on. Yeah, I wonder if are you a baseball guy, Axler?
I'm not really a sports guy at all. I mean, I will watch an occasional game here or there. Mainly just because my mother-in-law is a huge baseball fan, so I'll catch games here and there.
Mother-in-law, is she a Cubs fan, being geographically located where you guys are?
Actually, she's a diehard Tigers fan. So,
oh, poor lady.
Yeah,
even great, more so than a Cubs fan. Oh man, that's brutal. Yeah, but the reason I bring that up is it kind of reminds me of the like Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. It's the steroid era, and although a lot of folks in the baseball community will acknowledge those guys as fantastic hitters, there's always a giant asterisk, and therefore they're kind of shunned from any sort of post-career enshrinement via the Hall of Fame. And I think we all know a handful of names that are notorious botters, and therefore, it's never going to be an account that's entirely embraced as one of the Splinterlands goats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So statistics aside, I think the community will ultimately make that decision as to whether or not this person's statistics are valid. Yeah.
No, I definitely can see that being fair. I mean, there's a lot of accounts out there that are, you can tell pretty quick if they're a botted account. A lot of times, you never see them in chat, you never see them in Discord, but all of a sudden, you're always seeing them nonstop in certain areas or leagues, just fighting all the time. So I'm not huge against bots, but I do believe the game needs that human only area. So I'm excited to see what happens. And with statistics, if they kept the two separate, so that way you could definitely have like statistics in modern versus statistics in wild. I would appreciate that more, just because I mean, even the stats that I see on my account, and I openly have used the cheapest, junkiest one, Splintermate, and I use it just to fill in fights when I don't have time to play, because I'm, working on Baron's Toolbox, or I still have a 40-hour a week job, or so I like the idea of bots being used to kind of fill in that gameplay time. But that's when I noticed really quick, any statistics out there tell me what my best summoner was. Well, I never play that summoner. I always play, let's say, Possiblist, but it doesn't even show up in the statistics because the bot played more with Friendle or something along those lines. But no, I definitely would love to see the game go into those areas of statistics, those areas of achievements. I I think those really start adding, kind of like what I was saying with that social aspect. Being able to have those bragging rights and being able to bring it into more of a community aspect than we have right now. Right now, to me, it's fun, but it's doesn't feel like it's a multiplayer game at all to me. It feels like I'm playing solo the whole time.
Yeah, I think brawls is the most social aspect of the game, at least for the moment, for the time being, in my mind. And to your point, none of that social interaction takes place in game. It's all via Discord and talking with your fellow guildies and that sort of stuff. What I would love to see is maybe there's a way for when guilds and lands eventually get married, and we see the reflection of guilds take place on the continent of Praetoria. Maybe there's your guild has a trophy room in one of the land plots or something like that, and you can visit. It's going to reflect your guild's achievements and statistics, and you can drill down to each of the individuals. Yeah, I mean, just generally, there's so much opportunity to bring this sort of stuff to life to really drive home that narrative. And I think, having spoken with Hardpoint and Weirdbeard, they're both ginormous gamers, so they've got to be thinking about these aspects that are currently absent from the Splinterlands ecosystem. And I just think, because of the huge opportunity and because of the nature of the way that these guys, kind of approach the development of the game and where they would like to see the game go, I feel like it's an easy win to get that sort of stuff in there and drive those human behaviors and relationships. I hope you're right. I hope it comes to fruition.
I agree. Let's see. Proof that they are thinking along these lines is the fact that they have started to collect card history data. So you can see previous ownership on a card of who owned the card when it went from this person to that person. So I completely agree. We do have some of those developers, they're thinking about these statistics. And I didn't really directly answer. The reason I can't do statistics with Baron's Toolbox is the sheer volume of battles that are taking place, and the fact that Splinterlands, I know they say they're DeFi, I know they say everything's on the blockchain. Well, the battles are not on the blockchain. Battles that are on the blockchain are actually just a backup method. Everything goes straight to their APIs, and they store all this battle history is nowhere to be found through their APIs. We cannot get any battle history past 50 battles because they store all that data offline. And those of you that were here remember when everything really exploded, we shot up in the number of daily active users, servers were crashing. One of the things that they did to fix that problem was they moved all the battle history off the blockchain. And to this day, it's still that way. And so there's no way for me to be able to see all those battles to even try to present statistics. And there's no way I can be that middleman to get in there and collect those statistics either.
Do you think that the validator node system opens up bigger opportunity for the housing of longer term data?
I would hope so. It definitely hasn't been a discussion point that I've heard, them mention. First, they just got to make sure all the tokens move correctly and, it can't be manipulated. But I would love to see more of that history show up on the blockchain that they had to remove in the past. But because there's so many node licenses that would be getting sold or have sold, that's so many more quote unquote servers running the software that hopefully that wouldn't, completely drag the system down. So I would hope so. And I know they didn't take the battle data off the blockchain on, to purposely hide it. It was like they're archiving it offline is basically what they're doing. And, if they didn't do that back in the day, there's no way the game would have still been playable the way it was crashing due to all that blockchain activity. So I don't blame them for that. It just makes it, something that Splinterlands, the company, needs to be the one to introduce these statistics because they're the only one with that full set of data.
You mentioned the history piece on individual cards being accessible now. I was actually rooting around looking for that the other day for the benefit of Hep and myself and all the listeners. Can you tell us how do we access that information, Axler?
I haven't looked for it myself, but my understanding is this. The card history will appear on any new cards that are minted. So it would have to be a pack you would open, let's say today. Those cards will start tracking their history. And then the team is going to go back and run through historical data to populate the existing cards with some of that same data. So right now it's going to be hit or miss if you can see that history. But in the game, there's a tab for it. I think when you look at a card, I'm bringing it up on my screen right now to see if I can mention where the tab is, because I have seen that.
Yeah, feel free to pull up your screen share also, actually.
Of course, now I'm not seeing it right off the bat. But yeah,
when you said the card has to be minted, do you think will that cover cards like if you combine cards with, does that count as, will that count as, will start tracking data then? Is it a new?
I don't know.
I'm not
if
sure
that
exactly
would
how the
count.
card ID works. Yeah.
I just heard it was going to be for newly minted cards. And let me, if I can find an example, I will definitely share it and bring it up here. I mean, I guess
yeah, so I just opened I got a reward chest with a Chaos Legion pack last night and opened it, and I'm looking at, I pulled a 1 BCX of Deep Lurker, and I'm looking on Peak Monsters, I'm looking on Splinterlands. I'm not seeing the history.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either. Yeah, I'll have to come back to that one. But that was my understanding, is there's going to be history on the cards. It was going to start with the newer cards that got minted, because they basically they will have the smart contract information that allows them to start collecting that data and attaching it to the actual card. And yeah, I'm drawing a blank right here. So
that's all good. I'm glad to know that gives me a little bit of comfort that I'm in the same boat as an esteemed developer such as yourself, Axler. So thanks for that little pat on my back there. So tell us, Axler, what are you working on at the moment for Baron's Toolbox, and what are you excited for? Kind of what's coming in the game, and what that means for you and your business, your not-for-profit business currently.
Let's see. So for Baron's Toolbox, there's always things that I want to go back and do a version or a phase 2 on. One of them is the chat area. I definitely want to do a phase 2 on that. Make it a little bit more persistent, make it a little bit cleaner and more usable. Nothing specific. Right now, I do have a little button you can push and challenge. Basically, say you're online and you're open for a challenge. But then I realized I made it so I don't save that in any kind of history. So if somebody else logs in right after you and looks at chat, they won't see the challenge request. And I did that on purpose, thinking, oh, well, you don't want a challenge request hanging out in the history, for like 7 days because you're no longer there. But I need to rework that so that way the challenge request will show up always, but it'll have like we'll say a 15-minute timer associated with it, where people could click on it and relatively think you're still playing the game, and are there to play it. So that's one of the areas I would like to touch. I still need to go back and work a little bit more on the guilds update that I've been doing. There's more information I want to show there. And so the big thing that people are asking for with the guild update is they want to know more specific information about each member's donations per building in the guild, and how much they've donated per week in the guild. Because a lot of guilds, they like to set up these, they have to donate X amount per week, and they kind of want to see this breakdown. I can get at that information, but I will do it in a phased approach. I will probably introduce it first, just showing you the last 15 transactions, or maybe just 10 transactions of when that player's donated to one of the buildings, and just show you kind of a list with a date timestamp, so you can then be the judge of, oh, they haven't donated in over 7 days. That will probably be the initial version of that. I have at least 3 different individuals that relate to managing guilds that are looking for that information. And so that's probably going to be one of the next big pushes I make, is to try to get that information on the guild page. And if you haven't seen the guild page, I'm not sure where to put that information. It's pretty densely packed right now. So that's the next problem I have is, okay, I'm a visual person. I want to see everything at a glance. And I like the, we'll call it eye candy. I like the little icons with it, because my day job is I build websites, and a human can see and identify a picture far quicker than they can text. And so that's one of the things I've always disliked about Peak Monsters. Is great, I'm not dissing them, but one of the things I dislike is the picture of the card is this small square, unless I go to this huge grid view, but it's way too text heavy for most of the views. Now, for a lot of crypto people out there, they like their data in their spreadsheet, so they love this stuff. I'm more of a visual person. So if I bring this data in, I want to see how can I do it and present it a little bit more visually. And so that's what I usually end up struggling with, is getting to the data is one thing, but I want to try to present it and make it so it's a lot quicker and easier to read and see.
That's awesome. Do you have anything kind of planned out for land? I know you have some things that just showing the land you have more visually in one place and easily accessible instead of clicking through a bunch of stuff. It's really great. But do you have any thoughts on what you might want to do once land actually gets rolling?
I've been looking at land, and right now, the land interface that I made was because Splinterlands made me mad right off the bat. That's how a lot of my features get built, is they release land, and I have 12 plots of land. But when I was buying up plots of land, I got 2 in this region, 2 in another region, 2 in another region. I was purposely scattering 2 across multiple different regions on purpose. The concept of having to pay transportation fees didn't bother me. It was like, okay, whatever, I'll deal with it. I was looking for just, I only had 12, so I wanted a better chance of getting good stuff. And so then with the land plots and having 12 of them, here, I can share my screen here. So that way I can, let's see, share screen. And, oh, I've got so many screens open.
Yeah, man. I just got to quickly say while you're pulling up your screen, Axler, the land interface, it takes full advantage of what the Splinterlands creative team has kind of put out there for people who are interacting with land, and makes it such a beautiful presentation, man. Kudos to you for putting together such a sweet UX, and yeah, well done, man.
Thank you. That is one of my main focuses is on that. So you guys can see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. You should see my 12 land plots on your screen. So when I had the 12 land plots and they were scattered, the land view that Splinterlands presents does not let you see see land cards across multiple regions. So to see all 12 of my land plots, I had to go through their interface and constantly select a different region, select what track it was, so I could see my 2 cards. But now I forgot what the other 2 cards were. So then I have to go back to the previous region, select on the track, so I could see those 2 cards. But that just really frustrated me because I had scattered my plots across multiple regions. As a developer, I know why they did this. A region has 1,000 plots of land. That takes a long time to load. So they just figured, okay, we won't show more than 1,000 at a time. But for somebody like me who has 12, they made it impossible for me to see 12 plots of land at one time. And I found that very frustrating because I felt they prioritized the people that owned regions over the people that owned 2 to 5 plots of land. Now, I know they probably didn't set out and think, hey, we're going to stick it to them. I know that's not the case. But that I found really frustrating is I felt their solution they came up with was great for the large landholders. But for the guy that has 2 plots of land, it is very painful to use. Or in my case, if you have plots of land scattered across multiple regions, I couldn't even understand why they did that or didn't present something for just show me my plots of land all on one screen. I mean, when you look at your monster cards, you see all of those at one spot, one screen. It's all right there. I struggled with that. So that's where the land piece came out with. And then I did my filters and all that. And so here, when I click on loading the land market, so this is why I openly admit, I know why they don't want to show more than 1,000 land plots at a time, is because I'm drawing every single plot of land for sale on the market. And that's why it takes time to do this initial load. And I believe the last time I checked, it was like 1,600 plots of land. But I draw literally every single one of them. And that's why it takes a long time to load. So this is one thing that I'm probably going to have to go back to and limit to 1,000. And because I'm sorting it by lowest, that makes the most sense. I have requests. People want to be able to search by region and or track. So, they want to be close to their friend. So I will probably add some filters to it that will allow people to search for all land that's for sale in region 62. Right now, that would be an area that this is lacking in. And, some of the other things are, if you have a keep, I haven't put the graphic in there showing the keep. These are things that I want to do, but I get myself pulled in so many different directions. It's like, I get it as far as I can at the time I'm building it, but then I'm moving on to the next thing. And I'll get back to it. I just haven't yet.
Well, man, I gotta say, I think the beauty of Baron's Toolbox and particularly like the guild and land management stuff, I love it. It's so simple and it's such a sweet overlay that pops up over your screen. And I can be in ranked battles and pull the my land stuff real quick just to have a quick glance, close it out, and I'm right back on ranked battles. Just the experience that the user has using Baron's Toolbox, it's far superior to what the Splinterlands in-game stuff offers. And yeah, like I said at the beginning to introduce you, man, I couldn't imagine navigating Splinterlands without Baron's Toolbox at this point. It's ubiquitous in my mind in terms of the Splinterlands experience. It should be experienced with Baron's Toolbox.
Thanks. I really do appreciate that. I again, everything that I started building with Baron's Toolbox has all started from things that weren't in the UI that I wanted. And one of the simplest things was early on, my guild, we started in Brawl Cycle, I think 18, if I remember right. Yeah, we started in Brawl Cycle 18. So I've been playing in Brawls forever. And then they introduced merits in Brawl Cycle 32. I have been playing, and one of the things that I absolutely got so frustrated with was the fact that I couldn't see how many merits I had. I had to click through this screen to that screen to find out how many merits I had, and that wasn't even on the store page. I then had to go to the store page to use them. So that's where I started coming up with, I need a way just to present, in a sense, all the tokens or in-game coins. I'm not trying to refer to them as crypto tokens, but like in-game currencies. I wanted a quick way to see all these in-game currencies without having to dig through all these different interfaces, because they did the same thing when vouchers came out. Where do you find the display for vouchers? And one of the things that was bugging me that I just did in this update was proposals. Why is it hidden under the SPS or DEC icon? I don't understand that. It has nothing to do with the token. And so I just put an icon right here on the main area so you can quickly get to proposals, because new players are not going to find that.
I had no idea that was Baron's Toolbox. I thought that was it. I thought that the game had updated with that icon. I noticed that this morning when I went in. I said, "Hey, there's a new icon on my in-game toolbar." But man, you're thinking one step ahead, dude. It certainly makes it easier to navigate to proposals, and it does make sense to separate that from. I understand why it's under the umbrella of SPS, but yeah, to your point, it should be its own separate entity.
Yeah, and again, I love Splinterlands. That's why I do what I do, and so these are just things that I know the team has their own things that they got to take care of. I wish they could tackle some of these things, because some of these are just really simple and easy. And then on the market, when they introduced the SPS market, that was the other thing that really bothered me. It took me like 8 minutes to find the SPS rental market.
Yeah, I want to just jump in too real quickly and say also I like how with your proposal thing, it has the little banner that'll come up on the icon when there's a new one, and it'll go away once you click on it, instead of Splinterlands, where they're constantly like, there's a new proposal. There's, like you said, every time the screen refreshes, it's like you get bugged about your brawls and the new proposals. And it's like, I already voted on that, or I already looked at that. I'm still thinking about it. So if you can now figure out a way to get those removed, that would be awesome too. But yeah, no, I think that proposal thing you have, I saw that and I was like, oh, that's great. That was awesome.
Yeah, and the way that proposal piece is actually working is it's working off of if you have proposals you have not voted on. So here I just removed my vote from this proposal, And then if I go over here to a different screen, if I refresh, I believe that flag should come back here. So that flag shows back up. So that's what's triggering my flag is there's actually a proposal that I have not voted on. And so but I agree. Their constant pop-up showing, oh, go check this out. When a little flag like this, that's all people need. Just a little icon. That's it. That's all. And so I put that one in. And I take pride in the fact that you didn't even notice it wasn't from the game. And I've actually had my coworker who uses Baron's Toolbox load into his account at work to do something. And he'll say, he's done this twice now. He'll say, oh, good, Splinterlands finally fixed this. And it was actually my tool that had fixed it. So,
oh, man. That's got to be a good feeling of encouragement and justification for your adjustments to your service, man. Is there any way to bring the badges into? And I agree, the badge on the proposal is big. So for those of you that are listening along, what happens with Baron's Toolbox is if you have a proposal that you've not yet staked your vote on, there's a badge reflective of the number of proposals that are sitting in the vote period without a vote, and it will show you how many you've yet to vote on. But is there any way to bring that into tournaments and brawls? You know, like if I've got 3 active tournaments that I've not yet played my complete submissions for, is there a way to toss a badge on that and brawls also?
There might be. I will have to look. I honestly don't participate in too many of the events. So tournaments I don't participate in, mainly because I forget about them. It's not that I don't like them. My schedule is so all over the place that I can't sit down and dedicate that I will be there at that time to play that tournament. And so I just have kind of stopped playing tournaments. If the data is available, then I can easily add those badges for tournaments. Now for brawls, that one I'm not sure how I could pull that information. It's out there. I'm sure it's out there, but yeah, those would be a little bit trickier to get to work. But I like those ideas. I will definitely do some research. And see about getting those flags to show up. Now, that was the other thing that bothers me is the guild icon doesn't go straight to brawls, and I'm thinking about adding another icon that goes straight to the brawls tab, just because that's where you want to go half the time.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, I don't mean to stack onto your seemingly ever growing list of things to get done for Baron's Toolbox. You know, I love it as is, and obviously I appreciate the constant additions that you're making to the service. But
yeah, come on, Jangles. He's just over here saying about how he's got all this stuff he needs to do, but people keep bugging him to add more stuff in, and he doesn't have time. And you're like,
by the way,
what you really need.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems I have is I am horrible about trying to figure out how to monetize anything to actually pay for the work. Now, that being said, I am not looking to get paid for Baron's Toolbox, but some of the other ideas that I have had over the 2.5 years I've been playing, I was like, oh, that'd be cool, but that really needs to be a paid for thing, and I get lost trying to figure out how to properly monetize it, so I just, never mind.
Can you share any of those ideas with us, or has anybody else, developed those ideas separately from you that you're aware of?
The biggest one I have is I do have a full-blown game idea. I've had it for a while that I want to pursue. It will use all Splinterlands monster cards, summoner cards, and my concept will even make use of all the land plot cards. But a lot of people would call it probably just a different game mode. It would be a different type of gameplay completely. It wouldn't be about a 6-man battle team or anything like that. So it would just use the cards and all the assets from Splinterlands, because I'm not a graphic artist and they've already done that work for me. So
Yeah.
that's the main reason why it's easy for me to latch onto. But along with that, I want to make my own crypto token that would go with this. And so I've been just trying to line things up to see when I really want to start digging into it. And here's the biggest thing is, once I start digging into it, I have a lot less time for Baron's Toolbox updates. So part of what I've been doing is I've been trying to get Baron's Toolbox to the point where I wanted it, and trying to get in some of these features that other people want. So that way, if I do decide to kind of take a little step back, it wouldn't be because I don't want to. It's because I'm working on a bigger project, and that I hope to bring a completely different gameplay style, everything, to all the Splinterlands assets. And I don't really want to say exactly what that play style is. My first step will be, I'm probably going to make Splinterlands calls it a minimum viable product, but really what I need to make is something that could be almost like a demo, somewhat of a working version that's missing a lot of pieces and components, but just enough there so people can get the concept, because most likely it's going to require a bigger team than just me. And I've already got offers from 2 different individuals in the Splinterlands community to help fund things or be investors in an idea. And I just haven't been able to cross that line of, yes, I'm going to dig into this, but I keep planning the idea out. I have a lot more structure to it than I originally started with. So eventually I do want to really dig into another game idea. I've always been a person that makes or has wanted to make games myself. Another piece of my history is back in 2010, 2011, the company I worked for decided to go into apps for cell phones, tablets, and all that. And so I produced, the company decided we were doing young children apps. I programmed 30 young children apps for iPads and cell phones and all that back in 2011 and 2013. And so I've always had that passion. And so I want to now do that, but on a bigger scale here with, and it's my decision of what I'm actually going to make.
Oh man, well, I think you've already answered my question. But is there anything that you can kind of leak to the People's Guild and our audience in terms of what kind of game, what style of game? And feel free to tell me. I've already answered that.
So a little bit more expansion on it is, let's see. So, it would definitely have, in a sense, like seasons or levels, in the sense of that's how I'd make use of land plots. Land plots would be basically your gameplay, or all the games out there that you play that have these little land maps that you progress across. So I'm looking at making use of each land plot and having you progress across all the land plots, taking into account if the land plot is a common, rare, epic, gold foil, keep, castle, all of those would affect what you're going to have to battle at those different locations. So that will pull in all the existing assets of land, their rarities and all that, and I can leverage that to then have that affect kind of your travel across these regions. Because there's 150 regions, I see this as be like, let's say I put seasons in the game, and each season is progressing across one region of Splinterlands. And then there's the whole aspect of, if you really want to go big, you could even tie that into, if you're doing a battle on or some gameplay aspect on somebody's land, they could win a passive percentage because you were playing. But this is where I would need my own token, is that way I could leverage that for rewards, because I can't give out Splinterlands rewards.
Man, I'm feeling even more guilty for tossing ideas at you around Baron's Toolbox. I want to see this thing come to fruition. So for all those listening, just use Baron's Toolbox and be happy with what you got.
Yeah, be happy with it as it is.
Let's see this game. I think, the community has definitely demonstrated time and time again that there is a thirst for additional usage of Splinterlands assets. And we talked about it with Siler in our last episode. Splinterforge is kind of the first that comes to mind. And Axler, are you a Splinterforge guy?
A little unknown history of Splinterforge is I actually helped him way back in the beginning with some of his Splinterforge layout. Since then, he has gotten I'll even say a better developer that has really reworked a lot of my efforts that were originally put in there. And so I worked with him on Splinterforge on kind of the battle screen and the layout of when a fight is taking place and the log that you see scrolling on the screen. That was one of the original layouts that's still in there from when I helped him out. And basically I was helping him, and I traded him for a plot of land at the time for my efforts. So that's where I got land plot number 11 from, was helping Splinterforge. So I have played it. I do not actively play it.
Okay. Well, I think you're right there in the same boat as Hep and I don't think either of us invest too much time in Splinterforge. But there is a solid community of folks that go in there every day and complete their battles. And yeah, so I think the hunger is there for additional utility for Splinterlands assets. And if you can bring in the prospect of land ownership into your game, yeah, exciting. Is there a tentative title that you're working on for the game that you're willing to share?
Honestly, no, I haven't been able to come up with a solid title for it. So what I'm looking at doing is, like I was saying, make a minimal viable product that would show not necessarily the land progression, because I see the land as being more season. This is the season you're playing through, and each land plot might be like a level, and its rarities and all that affect what you're actually doing in the game. But I want to get the other half that I don't want to mention too much about, which is the gameplay aspect. And that piece I want to get to a point where I can then kind of do a private show and tell with the people that are willing to invest, as well as possibly trying to attract other developers that might be interested in helping on the project. So as far as the name goes, I haven't really locked in a name. I've got a couple in that I've been toying around with, but I haven't looked to see if there would be a conflict out there if I was to use it. So it's probably best not to say right now what those are, because I just haven't done my research.
I know in the Baron's Toolbox, you can look at your cards and you have different animations for cards. Is that something that you put together? I know the team has said that they have, animations planned. Is that something you've pulled from them somehow, or is that something that you've done on your own? They just kind of popped in my mind thinking about the game development thing.
Yeah. Have you seen where those animations are at? They're actually on the website version of Baron's Toolbox.
Yeah. I was looking at that. Yeah.
And yes, those are something that, in a sense, I will say I assembled. The animations are Splinterlands. They are ones that Nate has released during town hall meetings a year ago plus. They were releasing a lot of these animations just to show off what their team was doing. Well, I collected all those animations, and then I went ahead in my display of the cards. All the cards are kind of a flat stacked image. And then in order to animate these, they don't have card frames from Nate. I just have just the monster animated. So what I did is I had to go through and cut out all the card frames with basically a transparent middle. And when I cut all of those out, that allows me to put the monster in the behind the frame of the card. And then I put a backdrop behind there. And so I actually assemble those on the fly as it draws the card instead of just showing the flat card. And that game frame that, or the card frames that I had to cut out, that is what you see on Town Hall. All the frames around people came from me working on and cutting all those out for the animated cards. I then later turned into a game frame that any of us streamers can put right on our stream from a browser.
Oh man, Axler, you've got your fingerprints all over the whole ecosystem,
really?
and nobody knows it. It's so cool. And I know that the Splinterlands TV, the spinner, is something of your own creation. The Death Blow, I think Matt had a good time with on your stream the other day, and that's something of your own creation. And you've enabled all these tools to be used for free by the community for the ecosystem. Man, I got to say, on behalf of the whole community and myself in particular, I really appreciate your investment of time and all the effort into this. It's a labor of love, man. Thank you.
Or is it more a labor of frustration? You keep saying you're frustrated. Is it labor of love or labor of frustration?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of surprised me just how many aspects, little pieces of what I've been doing have gotten. And I wanted to tell you a little story. Oh, but I'm trying to look it up here real quick in Discord.
Yeah, I saw the team start to pop up.
Conversation I had with Nate. Let's see.
Yeah, while you're looking for it, I saw those things on the team pop up in the town hall. They started using those frames, and I didn't know that they came from you. I did know that site, see it on your website, and I didn't know if that's something that you had seen them do and decided to put in, or but that's awesome to know that it came from you. I was playing around with one of those, some of those the other day. I think it's really cool.
Oh, let's see. Okay, is my screen still shared or not?
No, I pulled it down. Go ahead and share it again, though.
Okay. Just so you guys can see this, because I just found this absolutely hilarious. Okay, so this was my Discord chat here with Nate. I've talked to him for quite a while. Let's see. But I was asking him a long time ago for some card assets so I could make those cards. And so let's see here. Oh, right here. This is where I was asking their team if they could give me these assets for the card frames so that way I didn't have to cut them all out manually. And do you see what Nate said?
Yeah, I think we have to read that aloud. Nate responds, "Mr. Crazy Person, why do you need this?"
So, needless to say, I never got the frame artwork from the graphics department. I had to cut them all out because Nate called me a Mr. Crazy Person. And then they started using those frames on the town hall. So,
oh man.
Anyway, it was just.
Did you ever get a shout out? Like when they first started doing it, did they ever give you a shout out that's where they had got it from you?
I don't think so. But they did ask permission to use it. It was actually Rondon in charge of these the streams, and he's in charge of all of us Splinterlands TV Twitch streamers. our boss per se is Rondon, and Rondon did approach me and ask permission to use them on the town hall. So privately, I think they did give me like just a legendary summoner or something like that as just kind of a thank you, and I think 3 or 4 packs of cards. But he did ask before they used them, so I don't want people to think they just used it and didn't really ask ahead of time.
Okay.
They did ask. I just find it comical that I had this conversation, and again, this was back in April of 22, is when I was asking Nate for these assets. So I've had that in play for a while here, and then the next thing I did way down here, since it's on, and January of 23, I sent him my version of the Spawn card with multiple Splinter colors, trying to get that to be the next promo card. I'm not saying I influenced the team, but that conversation took place before they even announced they were messing around with dual Splinter summoners and Zerial came out. So again, I'm not saying I helped push that envelope, but
I'll say it for you, Axler. You helped push that envelope, man.
And so I'm still pushing for the Spawn card to come out. I'm hoping that's the mini set that they're talking about with a undisclosed studio. No idea. But yeah, I would love to see that IP come into Splinterlands. I think the characters in the Spawn comics would make ideal characters in cards in Splinterlands. So
I'm surprised that we have yet to see the community kind of connect the dots on, I think everybody's asked, I think it was on the heels of Splinterfest that we first heard that, bringing Todd McFarlane stuff into Splinterlands was on the docket for potential future partnerships. And then we heard about this movie set, mini set coming. But I don't know if I've heard somebody connect the dots and marry the two together and think that Spawn is going to be that mini set inspiration. And what did you predict there? Dragon and Death, it looks like.
I actually did a 3 Splinter split. It was Fire, Death, and Dragon. Down here, it's actually split between Death and Dragon.
Got you.
Really, the 2 abilities I want. I know I made the card OP. But the 2 abilities I actually do want to see come out on a card in the game is the Camouflage Last Stand. That's what I want to see on a card, because there's so many cards that have Last Stand that never make it to the front line.
Yeah, it looks pretty OP. Actually, it definitely is a must-have. Just at a glance, you've got Self-Heal, Life Leech, Last Stand, Camo, 3 magic, 6 speed. I love it.
6 shield,
I
6
would want that card.
Only 6 mana too. That's
yeah. I know I made it OP. It was kind of like a fantasy card. Now the artwork is from Splinterlands. That was the artwork shown at Splinterfest.
Did you attend Splinterfest?
Yes, I was at Splinterfest, and yeah, I've got a bunch of the business cards from them sitting right here. I got some of the cards and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, nice.
But no, I was at Splinterfest, and let's see. There it is. I'm just going to stop the share. There you go. But yeah, I've got a bunch of the little cards that were printed, and still the Dr. Blight here. So the little figurine of Dr. Blight. So yeah, I was at Splinterfest, and I got one of I showed this on stream, Yabamat's 2018 card that he likes to shuffle on stream. I got one of the last one of those at Splinterfest.
That's cool, man. Well, despite all of the overlooking of your efforts on behalf of the team, I hope that conversation with Yaba in plain sight of all the public that was present for Splinterlands TV. You know, the credit is certainly way past due. I'm rooting for you, man. I think you've proven time and time again that you're a humble servant to the community, and you continue to deliver very cool ideas, obviously embraced by the community and embraced by the Splinterlands team. And yeah, I hope that the tide starts to turn and we can see that extension download creep into the thousands for you, man.
No, I much appreciate it.
Cool. Well, Hep, any other questions kind of burning a hole in your pocket, man?
No, I think we said it all.
Wonderful. Axler, is there anything else? Feel free to plug Baron's Toolbox. If we haven't done it enough on this episode, tell the good listeners, how do we find your extension? How do we submit suggestions? Where your Discord?
Easiest ways to find the browser extension. I do want to point out it works in any browser that is Chromium based. I know that's a programming term, but basically Microsoft Edge, the Brave browser, and Google Chrome. It works in all of those. You can go to just the Chrome extension store. You just Google it and search for Baron's Toolbox. It'll show right up. Or you can go to baronstoolbox.com, and right there at the top of the screen will be a link that will take you straight to the Toolbox, the browser UI tool, right from baronstoolbox.com. And so that would be the two easiest ways to go find it. And I'm always open to suggestions. I haven't started working on a different project yet. So, as I get the suggestions in, sooner the better, because I do think before snow flies here in Michigan, I'm probably going to slow down work on Baron so I can work on this minimal viable product of a game that I can see if it's worth pursuing further.
Well, I hope your suggestion box is suddenly inundated with we want the game. We want the game.
Yeah,
bring on the game. Yeah, bring on the game. It's going
to be really important to have other games that can then use our Splinterlands asset. I think that's going to be, would be awesome for the community. So yeah, I'm definitely keep us posted. I want to hear more. I'm looking forward to it.
I will.
Yeah, when you've got more to share, man, just flick me a message or reach out to Hep and we'll get you back on to talk shop additionally and hopefully get your game some coverage.
Sounds great. I appreciate being here.
Oh man, this was an absolute blast. I love you taking the time to do all that you do already and then additional time to hop on and have a good chat with us. Cool story, cool entrance into the game, and you were about 4 months too late. You should have listened to your buddy in January, but lesson learned, man.
Definitely should have.
Well, as you were saying that story, I couldn't help but think about the next influx of players and how many of them are going to have that same sentiment where, my buddy Hepthorn told me to get into Splinterlands in 2022 and I just dismissed it. And here we are in, whenever that point in future time is, and these folks finally take the plunge and, we've got Astral Entity selling for $50 BCX. That'll be the day. That'll be the day.
Oh, definitely. I just released a YouTube video about a week ago about timing is everything. And I personally believe the game that we have right now is going to change drastically over the next 2 months, definitely 3 months, with Tower Defense coming out, Land Phase 1.5, and the GLX Sports. I just think timing is everything. I personally believe now is the time. If people are thinking about getting into the game, I think it's a great time to get into the game because I think we're at the bottom of a hill and getting ready to climb.
Wonderful. All right, Axler. Well, again, man, thank you so much for all you do, and appreciate you taking the time to hop on with us. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you for tuning in, and you have been listening to
The People's Guild.